What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. In this video I'm going to bring you a 1-year review of our John Deere. This is a Z530M. This is what I would consider to be a mid-grade residential mower, maybe even more higher-end residential mower. I believe they have a 700 series. So we've had this for about a year. It cost around $6,000. We bought it at our local John Deere dealership, and there isn't really a lot of discounts on these. You also can get them at Lowe's, but I think they do the Z530R, or they didn't have this exact combo. They have different deck sizes. It's hard to configure things. At my John Deere dealership, you can basically get whatever you want. So it's around $6,000. It has 12 hours on it, I believe. Not a lot. This mower is probably overkill, but I kind of will go over why we went with this versus something else, like a riding lawnmower, which I was originally looking at like a John Deere Craftsman riding lawnmower, but you're still going to spend $3,000, $4,000 for even a mid-grade new one. Not even necessarily mid-grade, just one in general from Lowe's. So I'll kind of go through a few specs on this. Nothing too fancy. I'm not going to go over tire sizes and all that, but this has the standard 48-inch Excel Deep. It's not the high capacity. The high capacity is the yellow decks. And it just does have greasable spindles, which I like. The grease spindles are kind of hard to see. They were like way down there in the bottom. That may be one negative, is that getting to them is not the easiest thing. Once you drop the deck down, it's a little bit easier to get to. But you do have different deck options. This is the one I preferred, was the 48-inch. 60 inch is too big, and anything above like even 54-inch, I believe is too big for our yard. We have a little over half an acre. But overall wear and tear on it is not too bad. Oh, let's do the motor real quick. It's your standard Kawasaki FR730V, which is a step up from the FR691, which is your standard, what you get on basically most of the mowers, the zero turn at that are Kawasaki, are going to be the 691. So you do get a little bit beef up motor. It's a Kawasaki, which is nice. You only have your standard one air filter. That's basically what differentiates this from a commercial mowers. Commercials usually have a 2-stage. You do have serviceable transmissions, which I like. I will never buy. If you look at some of my previous videos, we had a previous Gravely zero turn that was real cheap, like $4,500, and it didn't have serviceable transmissions. These transmissions are pretty smooth. This is not the fastest mower, so if you have a big yard, or you cut, I would say if you cut 5-6 acres and you're really pressed on time, this isn't the fastest. It's like 8 to 8.5, I believe, miles per hour going forward. I have no idea about the rear, but it does have fairly big tires for a residential mower. So the back tires are a little bit on the larger side. I just think the cut looks better when you have a little bit wider tires. That's just a personal thing on mine. But very comfortable seat. It does not have suspension on it, but it does have a little bit of cushion to it, and a little bit of kind of maybe some vibration reduction there at the bottom. It adjusts pretty easily. So that's pretty good. It's a very stable mower. It feels a lot more well built than my previous Gravely. I forget what it was, but it was basically the cheapest Gravely you could get, and it felt like junk. This one feels like a little bit better. I think that's mainly because I think the build's a little bit better, so you do have a nice, everything on this is mainly metal. Easy way to get to underneath the deck here. The deck feels pretty nice. It cuts extremely well. Honestly, I have had a commercial grade Gravely. I've had a other cheap Gravely in this. They all cut about the same, honestly. So I don't really think that's, maybe the commercial one cut a little bit better, probably because it was like a 52-inch with three blades. Or this one does have 3 blades, but it's a 48-inch. The deck's held up pretty well for, I mean, it doesn't have many hours on it, but it's overall been pretty stable. I think it's a little bit needs adjusted, as you can tell by the wheels here. This one's a little bit more worn on the right side, but you can adjust them right through there pretty easily. Pretty decent fuel tank. I could usually cut 3, 4, 5 times without filling it up, so it does have a little kind of gauge there. And then it does have a gauge here if you turn it on. Oh, you may have to actually, nope, there it goes. Sorry guys. It does have a fuel gauge there that'll give you an idea of things. I'm not going to start it up or anything. It's nothing too special. You do have some cup holders here, which I use these pretty frequently. They're pretty flimsy, pretty cheap and plasticky, but I haven't had any issues. I believe you have a outlet there, like a cigarette, like a type of outlet to plug stuff in. Maybe you have, honestly, I have no idea, tire pressure or a tire pump. And then you have more storage over here. Some this and that. This is the level of your gauge. So you do come with that off the bat. So if you need to adjust your deck, it's pretty easy to do. But this is pretty plastic and pretty flimsy. As you can see, it moves around pretty easily. The deck does move a lot, which I like. Kind of free floats. So if you run into stuff, we have a lot of weird stuff around our yard, rocks and such. So that's held up pretty well. The ride's really nice. It rides pretty comfortable. It's not going to jerk you around a lot. It's pretty smooth. I think that's mainly because of the transmissions. I wish I knew what John Deere's were. They have a different transmission than the standard. I don't know if I'll be able to get a shot of that, but basically your hydro's back here in the back. So it is a very smooth ride. The engine's smooth. It's probably overkill. Honestly, even the Kawasaki 691 I think would be adequate for this setup. I don't think you need 24 horsepower for what we're doing here. You got a nice big fuel filter. A lot of the cheaper ones, you'll notice they have a smaller fuel filter, like with some of the Kohler or the Kawasaki 691. Actually, the Kawasaki's, they all have the same exact fuel filter, but the fuel filter is pretty large. They have the same oil filter as just about every residential grade. So you can get your fuel filter, your fuel, your oil, or not your fuel, your oil and your blades all at Lowe's. So that's one plus. We have John Deere dealerships all over where we live right now, so I don't have any issue getting stuff. But if you're worried about getting stuff in person, that may be something to consider. Because if you start getting into commercial grade mowers, sometimes it's harder to find the parts for. You have to order them online or have a dealership that's close to you. We're really close. The actual steering's really nice. The padding's not as nice as some of the other ones, but it feels nice and smooth. It is pretty adjustable, so I haven't had to adjust anything on this. It came pretty well aligned. The deck setup for lowering it up and down is pretty self-explanatory. Push this pedal up, or you put it in what gear you want, push that up, press this down when you close it, and it goes down to your height, and it goes from 4 to 1 inches. I usually cut not that low. Usually I cut around the 3 mark, sometimes a little bit lower, between 3 and 3.5, depending on what we're doing here. I think I had it real low because I was greasing the deck spindles. That's the only negative about these deck spindles that are greasable, is that the grease thing is like buried way down in there, so it's kind of hard to get to. But over in that, it's really nice. 3 blades again. We've talked about that. Do not buy a zero-turn mower with 2 blades. Some of these 42-inch, 48 inches only have 2 blades. So I would avoid that. The cut on those is not as nice. I have seen a few cuts with those that only have 2 blades. And it's just not a very nice or clean setup. So quick review of the positives. So I think for $6,000, this gets you close to a commercial grade mower as you could imagine without the motor. The motor is probably the big thing. If you're cutting 24/7 and it's your, you're making your living off of that, and it's not like a side job or just some big, if you have 4, 5, 6 acres, I think this could handle this easily. But if you're cutting for a living, I would get a commercial grade mower just for the fact, the longevity of the engine. You're gonna beat that thing through the ground. I've learned my lesson on that route because I used to cut on the side for about 10 hours a week, and I originally had a John Deere zero-turn, I think a Z540, and I beat that thing to death just because it just wasn't built for that. But it's pretty reasonable for what you get. I feel like everything's gone up in price, so $6,000 might seem like a lot, but you get a really reliable mower. The motor's really reliable.
The trans the trans on these are really reliable from what I've read. Nice cut, nice deck. I haven't babied this thing at all, and it still looks pretty good for the hours that's on it. It's pretty fuel efficient, so it gets pretty good. I don't have to fill it up as often as my Gravely did. I feel like that thing really sucked through the gas. Plenty of storage, smooth, cuts really nice. The seat's comfortable. That's it. That's not really, it's easy to service. I serviced it after like 5 hours just to get the kind of the break-in oil out of it. It's probably not break-in oil. It's probably isn't needed, but I did it anyways. But those are a lot of the positives. This is probably the mower I'd recommend for most people that don't need a commercial mower. Gravely makes some nice mowers, but a lot of their ones in this price range had sealed transmissions, which I didn't really care for. That would be my only negative there. A few negatives. The grease spindles are just in an awful spot. Like, I don't know why I honestly wish they just had sealed ones, like some of the commercial grade ones do. But they're just really hard to get to, and they stay really dirty all the time. So you can see it's just like caked in dirt down there. The anti-roll bar thing, I wish there was an option to delete this and maybe take $200-300 off the price. I don't need it, never needed it. I mean, it looks nice, I guess. It makes it look more commercial grade, but I don't think you really need that, or have an option to delete it, especially if you can order these straight from the factory, so I feel like there should be an option for that. That's my only real negatives. It's just those two very small things. The price is kind of high. That's the only negative, is that $6,000 is a lot for a mower. You can get used ones, but I wanted a new one, and we had the cash to pay for it, so I would not finance a mower unless you get 0%, which I don't know if John Deere still does that, but I would try to pay cash for stuff if you can. But that's it. It's held up really well. We've been really happy with it. It cuts really nice. Can't tell currently because the grass is still just now growing. We don't have a lot of grass in the backyard anyways, because we have a really big oak tree, so it shades most of the backyard, so we don't get a whole lot of sun here in the backyard. But that's it. If you have any comments, questions, leave them below. Hopefully this was useful for someone. Sorry I haven't posted videos in a while. I'm going to start getting that going soon. But that's it. Have a good weekend. Good summer. I'll try to get an update video of this later on as the summer progresses. Spring, summer.